My guest today is an economist, as well as a management consultant and an artist and a writer. Welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Small Talk. I would like to introduce to you my guest today is Hussein Rostum. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Hussein.
Well, hello, Nancy. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you know, one of the things that fascinates me is that you have two, or maybe like three careers. I'm not sure. Economist, management consultant, as well as an artist and a writer. Correct?
That's correct. Where I've made my career throughout my life, to make a living. Has been, yes, I had my own small company as a management consultant, and I am an economist by profession. I've had several jobs over my lifetime. Art and writing was always sort of a side thing, but later in life now I'm sort of focusing on doing that more. It's kind of a work in progress.
Right. So I just want to go back a little bit. Now, you were born and raised in Egypt, correct?
Right, yeah. And apropos of that, I always keep my pyramid, the alabaster pyramid here. It's a paperweight. It reminds me of where I come, because I'm very proud of that. And so, but I've lived in Canada for 50 years now.
Right.
So I love it here, and this is my country now.
Yeah, for sure. But I just love the idea of, you've been born and raised in Egypt and you have English and Turkish ancestry. So there's all this beautiful mix, right?
Well, that comes from my grandparents, both from my mother's side and my father's side. From my father's side, he is Circassian, which is around the Black Sea area. The Circassians, they lost in like 100-year war with the Tsarist Russians, and then they had to migrate from there. Something similar to the Armenian history and some of the other people who lived around the Black Sea area during those times. And then they migrated to Turkey and then to Egypt. And but my father was born in Egypt, but his origins are Circassian. From my mother's side, my mother's mother is from England, and her father is from Egypt. Right. So I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yes.
But I'm proud of my own beginnings, but also my parents and my grandparents' beginnings.
Right. Well. Yeah, I love that. I'm one person who loves all of that. Now, you came to Canada in 1970.
That's right. Yeah.
So, what brought you to Canada?
Well, it's kind of a push and pull kind of thing. Push where, the circumstances in Egypt during those days were difficult in terms of, first of all, graduating and trying to make a living and so on. And I had spent actually my senior high school year in California, which now we're jumping around the world. But I was an exchange student from Egypt, amongst other students from all over the world, actually. And I graduated from high school there, but I also went to college, high school in Egypt as well. When I went back after graduating from California, I went to university in Egypt.
Right.
But Canada was always kind of like a friendly place, and a place to go to. I read about it. I knew many Canadian friends. And in lieu of going, I wasn't sure I wanted to go to the US in those days. It was not, again, it wasn't, the best of times. And so Canada kind of was more of an attraction and a draw. And I had friends here as well. So that's the reason why I came to Canada.
Okay, right. Now, your wife was born in Switzerland?
Yes, she was, yeah. So but she came younger than when I came.
Oh, okay.
To Canada. Her parents actually immigrated to Montreal, and she grew up in Montreal, although she was born in Switzerland and still has relatives and connects and has visited many times there. But
Right now, and you have two sons, right?
I do. I have two sons. Yes, I'm proud of them.
That's nice to hear. Yeah. So,
and two grandsons as well.
oh, all right.
Yeah, and my two sons, better halves as well. My daughters-in-law.
Yeah, and you've got like the grandchildren are in Colorado.
Yeah.
Kind of like me. My son lives in China, and I have and I have a stepson in Austria. So we're kind of that same thing where they're all over the world, right?
So we've got some
yeah.
on there. China is a wonderful country. I've been there. It's beautiful. I mean, when the most amazing, we talk about the pyramids in Egypt and so on, but really what's really amazing is when walk along the Great Wall there. It's just, I don't know if you've been or not, but it's just, absolutely unbelievable to see we have mountains here, but it's like as if the mountains here, like Chim Mountain here in Chile, it's like there's a wall going over the mountain, and beyond, and then another mountain and another mountain. It's
goes on forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you're really well traveled. You've been to many, many countries, right?
That's part of my work, some vacationing, but mostly because of some of the management consulting work I did. I did some work for the World Bank. I did some work for the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum and so on. So I had a chance actually to interview and talk to many, we're doing an interview now. It's different to be on the other side of it, but I had the chance to interview many, many people, from all walks of life in relation to the work that I did.
Yeah, very nice.
Nothing to do with art and writing. It's more, that's how I made my, a living.
Right, for sure. Yeah. Now, do you have a country? Would you say there's any one that stands out more than the others, other than Egypt?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I actually never thought of it in that way. One standing out being more. I actually really like Chile. I went to Chile there on a project, and. It kind of, I guess they have a little story there. It's like when God finished creating the world, he made Chile from all the leftover pieces. Because in the northern part, there's more desert-like, and then the further you go south, there is more mountains and things, and then there's all these Mediterranean climate in Valparaiso on the beach side. And if you keep going down further south, it gets colder and colder and more like a polar, it's like a strip like that in Western South America. So I kind of like that, but I also like the people as well. They're very mixed from various European and native and, India. I'm not Indian, but I'm not sure what to call the Aboriginal people then, I forgot. But a very eclectic mix of people, which kind of creates, which is something like Canada too. We have a lot of different origin people, and so I kind of like that. Yeah, I was. It almost felt like home, But even though I didn't speak the language, but surprisingly, a lot of people there speak English and other languages in addition to Spanish, of course.
Ah, really good. Yeah. Now you have, let's have a brief story here about, what is it? Now there's something here. Was that your story? Like with your travels, like you mentioned Belgium and France and of course, Mexico and.
Yeah, I mean, there's different, there are many different little things from in the different countries, but I mean, I can say like once, like we're talking about doing interviews and so on. And so I was doing a study on harmonizing standards. This was for the Asia Pacific because it relates to trade. Like standards are often a barrier to trade. Like when different countries have different standards,
Right.
whatever it is, if you're selling refrigerators, if you have a different standard in Canada than you have in Mexico, then it's harder to sell refrigerators in Mexico. So, but it covers a lot of things, including clothing, military clothing, even, because they sell that to each other. And so there's this, the military in Chile had this, factory that produces all kinds of clothes and shoes and things like that. And they have their own kind of standards for their own, and there's different peoples and so on. So one of the things was to go and inquire and ask them about what their standards were and where they're selling their clothes and so on. Nothing wrong about going, because it was just that was in the factory that they did. It was just
right.
to find out. So anyway, it turns out that the person I was interviewing was a general in the army, and he was in charge of this factory, and so I had to speak to him and ask him the questions and so on first before I asked anybody else anything. So I was brought through the gate into the military complex there to meet him, and the gentleman who was, or the corporal, I guess he was, who was escorting me there, didn't realize who I was. He thought I was somebody else. So he took me into this room where the general was, and he was giving a fantastic presentation with big screen and so on. And all the people around the table were all top brass people. And I'm walking in with this guy. I said, this can't be right. And he looks at the corporal like this and said, what's this? And the corporal said, oh, well, this is Mr. So-and-so. So I turned around to the corporal. I said, no, I'm not Mr. So-and-so. I'm the other person. And all the brass around there, they laughed, and, they had some sense of humor.
Good.
And the general said, oh, no, this is, this interview with me, it comes after his presentation. So anyway, it went okay. And about half an hour later, he joined me, and I had my interview with him. But
right.
that's kind of the things that just happened by accident.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, isn't it?
No, it was a bit scary though for me, because
No, after living many years in Ontario, you and your wife decided to move to Chilliwack?
Yes, we did. Yeah. Well, one of our sons lives here.
Oh, okay.
And the idea was before, like we moved just before COVID, and the idea was to come here and to be closer to him, and also to closer to the rest of our family in Colorado. It's because it's a much easier drive, or a shorter flight and so on, back and forth. Well, then COVID came and did, changed. We're closer, but we also, the other thing is, throughout our life, we kind of explored, went camping, and did a lot of stuff all along the East Coast. From Quebec all the way down to the Keys and Florida and so on. So, we figured, okay, when we move here, we'll explore the West Coast, even though I had been in California as a younger person. But so that's still in our plans to do that. So
very nice.
But now that we're here, we're loving it. Like it's really quite a nice place. And somebody asked me the other day, how do you compare the people here with back home? Wherever the home was in Ottawa and so on in Ontario. And my answer was, I kind of feel the people here are generally less stressed. Like you can actually talk to people and you feel, more relaxed. And not that there are many less stressed people in Ontario, but just it feels like I'd like to say a healthier life with the mountains and the fresh air and so on.
A little bit more laid back, maybe, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Now, tell me about your art. Now, I know you've had your art at the O'Connor Gallery here in Chilliwack, right?
Yes, yeah. I actually here's one that I actually sold in the gallery.
Oh, I love that.
I call this Windstorm.
I love that.
That,
Beautiful.
that this it was inspired by, we do get a lot of windstorms here. And
Yeah.
there was a one particularly strong one. I think it was about a year or a little more ago. And that kind of inspired me. And I couldn't resist putting color to the wind, if you so to
Now,
speak.
that's very interesting because I've always said to people, I would love to see the wind in color so that you can actually see, right?
Yeah, there it is.
So there it is.
In all its glory, yeah.
Thank you for showing it to me in color.
Yeah.
Now I see the one behind you. That's like triangles and whatever shapes they are, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a kaleidoscope thing. But again, I mean, my thing is I love color. And if anything, that I want to do in art is to put color on canvas,
Right. And is it all acrylics?
It's all acrylic, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we grew up in, when I say we, my two sisters and my brother and myself, we grew up basically in an art-loving family with my mother, but particularly my father, who was an artist and an architect. And he studied in the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris and so on when he was younger and so on. And so he passed on to us all his skills and knowledge and encouraged us to paint. Mainly oil and watercolor.
Okay.
But later in life, I discovered the acrylic. And so I kind of went in that direction. My brother still draws his wonderful drawings. And my sister also paints in watercolor, but also does other things like icon drawing and little detail things, but also other things as well. So yeah, we do talk to each other from time to time about our different art pieces.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Now, so what about your writing now? What have you written?
Well, I've written poetry, and I've written a couple of one act. Actually, one is a 3-act play, and another is a one, and two others which are one act plays. Do you want me to read you a poem that I wrote?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. This one is called. You're talking about. You were talking about traveling and so on. When I was younger, I was able to travel to Italy. I was lucky enough to travel all over Italy, and I went to the Vatican, and I saw the Pietà of Michelangelo.
Yes.
You know what the Pietà is, or
Yes.
it's like Christ off the body of Christ off the cross with Mary holding and so Michelangelo has this famous Pietà, and I was lucky enough at the time. It was many years ago. You could actually stand very close to it and see it and actually feel the statue. Now it's up on a pedestal because there's so many tourists, and
Right.
they don't want anybody to be touching it and so on. So I was so moved and by it that I wrote a poem called the Pietà.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to read. I'll have to tell you that it affected me so much, that I really think Michelangelo had divine hands behind him when he was creating it, because you actually can feel. If you look at the body of Christ, you can actually feel that you don't think of it as marble. You think of it as flesh and bones, and that actually came off the cross. And anyway, let me read you the poem.
Okay.
Because I had to give you a bit of that background, because
Sure.
it's hopefully withered are these veins of mine, through which no waters seep. Tired are the tourists' feet, seeing me collapsed divine. Beauty's hands have made me weak, brought a joy to many, to some a weep. See, now I'm good to weep. I'm sorry.
No apology.
And still to others, Michelangelo speaks. This is Christ, behold. And they all come silent. Yet through these withered veins of mine, no waters seep. That's the point.
Very nice. Very
Make
nice.
of it what you will in terms of meaning or whatever, but it's how I felt,
Mm.
with all these tourists coming by looking and so on. It's how I felt at the moment of being, next to this really divine statue.
Yeah.
It made me, I went back to the hotel room and I wrote the poem. So that's one of my poems.
That's what poetry is. That's what art is, right? It's your feelings, whatever it is you're experiencing, right?
Yeah.
That you either put in words or put on a canvas.
Yeah, and sometimes you can put on canvas what you can't put in words, and vice versa. You can put in words what you can't put in canvas. At least, for me. So hence, like it's good to kind of diversify oneself to say, all right, well, there's some things I want to talk about that I can't put on canvas, or it's just possible for me to, or it might be too difficult to put on canvas. And the other way too, there may be some things I want to express that I can't express in words. So
Right.
I do that kind of thing. So
Yeah, right. I love that kind of art, by the way.
thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, like I said, you were at the art gallery, and are you scheduled again, or am I looking at the right
I am scheduled for a one-man show in
August?
July. Well, it's June, July, August, but it's the end of June until August 8th.
Okay.
So everybody's welcome to come and see what I have to offer.
For sure. I would advise people to go. I used to volunteer at the art gallery before they changed the hours. And I used to take photos, and then I would contact the artist to come on the show, because I thought it was so great. And then I would post the pictures on Facebook. So to tell people, come and see it, because seeing it in person is so different than seeing a photo of it.
True.
Right?
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, it's the colors don't always necessarily come out in the photos, and the feeling also, the brush strokes and things like that. There are certain aspects, little details about the painting, and the size as well makes a difference in terms of when you go to see it. It could be a small or a bigger, but in the screen, it's always more or less the same size. Kind of.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing I like about art, and a lot of artists, is you look around and you think, okay, this is all this one person's artwork, and look at all the different perspectives, or I don't even know what words to use, but it's not all the same. Some can be so opposite of this painting over here is so different from that. That's why I encourage people to go and see it. It's just so wonderful, right?
Yeah, and this latest art show, which was called Natural Expressions, we had about 21 artists exhibiting, including myself. And what you just said there, how different each one is, and the different mediums and so on. It was really well put together with we do have a lot of talent here in Chilliwack and in the Fraser Valley area as well. So that's another actually reason why, one of the reasons why I'm happy to be here, after having lived so long in the east side of, in Ottawa.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Now, what do you have anything in the works, whether it's writing or painting?
Well, I have, in terms of writing, I would like to actually produce one of my poems. Your plays. My plays. I walk the dog, where my wife and I sometimes we walk the dog around the Fraser Valley University here in the Chilliwack campus.
Yes.
And in the back there's a garden called the Shakespeare Garden. Hardly anybody probably knows this. Maybe even the students who go there. And there's an outdoor like theater in the round with concrete
Like a
benches.
shell?
Yeah. There's no. I mean, it's all. It's kind of a garden and with pathways into the college. But there's a plaque there which I noticed when I was walking the dog. There was going, just smelling around and saw this plaque saying Shakespeare Garden. So I said, "Oh wow!" And then I looked around and I saw this little theater in the round. So maybe in the summer, I don't know if they use it or not, but it was one thought anyway. I have this poem called "The Podium," which actually I had produced and had almost was almost ready. You're asking for some stories about countries. Was almost ready for production back in Egypt, and I went to the American University and I took a drama course with a very well-known professor there, Professor John Rodenbeck, and he's American, and then he went to live in France. But anyway, that's another story. So he was a really good professor, and I took this class, and and part of the requirement was that you produce a short one-act play. And so there was like 4 of us who were going to do this. And so I said, well, I'm going to write my own and I produced my own, right? And so I did, and it was called The Podium. And then 2 days, it was all lined up and everything. We rehearsed and we were all ready to go. 2 days before the showing, the professor came to me and said, "I'm sorry, you can't put your show on." I said, "Why?" He said, "The censors have censored it and you won't be able to put it on. The censors in Egypt." So I said, "Why? What is in there?" He said, "Well, you'll have to go to speak to the censors about that. They have a file on you." So I didn't go myself, but my girlfriend at the time actually went on my behalf and found they had a big file folder and saying, that my short one-act play, which was about 35 minutes, kind of broke a lot of taboos, not any sexual taboos or anything like that, but political and was destructive to society and those kind of language. It really isn't that at all, and I read it again. I said, well, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there is some. I read it over and over, and it didn't look to me like that. It was just being honest about people's feelings and things like that.
Right.
So that's maybe when you ask, what's in the future.
Yes.
Possibly, if that comes, at the moment I'm busy preparing my portfolio for my one-act show, my one-man show in July, August.
Right, that'd be great. Well, it's been really great getting to know you. Thank you. And just stay there while I talk to the audience. I hope everybody you enjoyed meeting Hussein Rostum and getting to know something about him. And remember, if you live in Chilliwack or in the area nearby, his art will be on display at the O'Connor Art Gallery here in Chilliwack from June to August.
August.
You can always go to the Culture Center and get that information. It'll be there. So hopefully you'll go and check out his work, and hopefully you'll get some of hopefully you'll get your play stage. That would be nice.
I'll try.
Yes. So thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching this show. I hope you come back in the future. And peace out, everyone.
Bye.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.